This is like a
Go on, just say it, Mark. Just say it.
It's coming. It's coming. He'll get there.
Yeah. Don't hold back.
Ian, David, and Quinn started out to make a $50 million movie based on Ian's book, TJ's War. Mark, Sia, and Sincera soon jumped on board, and then Mr. Z joined the team, a mysterious executive producer who said, "Stop, this is no movie. This is a 2-season, 20-episode TV show. So follow us, join us as we create TJ's War, the $50 million TV series."
Welcome back, folks. So here we are, part 2. As Mark alluded to at the end of part 1, we're going to continue to look at the previous year and this year, 2025, folks, and what this will hold for us, any challenges, what we predict may or may not happen. It's quite hard these days. Here we are, back for part 2.
Well, when we all started, we had just a simple idea. Let's make a $50 million movie. What were our initial goals at that point?
So my background is artificial intelligence, and there's a number of approaches to that. And one of them is called chaos theory. And in chaos theory, you start with chaos. Whatever situation we're talking about, it's just chaos. It doesn't make sense. It's like one of those. What's the name of the artist who just sprays paint on the canvas?
Jackson Pollock. Yeah,
Jackson Pollock. Yes, like one of those Jackson Pollock paintings. And somehow, out of that chaos, there is a thing called emergence, and patterns simply seem to appear out of the chaos. And that's called emergence. And then out of the emergence, you start to get order. Now, this is not somebody controlling it. This is actually out of the chaos. The chaos produces emergence. The emergence produces order. Order then tends to be optimized until you get to a point where you over-optimize, and then you fall back into chaos again. So any of the great empires around the world, the Roman Empire, Greek Empire, British Empire, whatever, they all have this chaotic start, and then they become very ordered, and then become optimized, and then they lose control and they fall back into the mire again. And you can do it with Marks and Spencer's, you can do it with Woolworths, you can do it with any company. Almost any system can be described using chaos theory at one level or another. And when we start out having this idea of we're going to make a $50 million movie, it was David and I and Quinn, and we were in chaos, deliberately in chaos. And that can be uncomfortable for some people to be in, but not to me. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And you just know that something's going to emerge from that chaos. And sure enough, it did. And as David said, there were a number of dead ends and things that we tried didn't work and so on. But we get the order, we get this emergence of order, and things are really beginning to motor now. So...
I think actually that. Yeah, I mean that. Essentially, what was our initial vision, and we have come a long way from that. And I think even the dead ends are stepping stones. You know, I briefly threw my hat in the ring. Attempted the first few pages of a screenplay. And, admittedly, I could see myself that, all right, well, we probably need someone a little more professional than me to put this together. But in the attempt, I feel like I learned something. I learned something about screenplays and, how difficult they are to write.
And listen, you're knocking yourself out there. You did not produce a bad attempt. I thought that was a good attempt. But really, it's much easier to play with something than nothing. And what we learned from that, one of the things we learned from that was that it's not just about the content. It's not just about what the words are on the paper. It's about the person who's doing the script writing. It needs to be somebody who's got that name for it beforehand, that comes in and does this. Otherwise, what we're trying to develop doesn't have the right level of credibility. So
And also,
no, I
you
get that.
don't know until, people are walking down the red carpet. What you can never really tell how much things have been useful.
Hmm.
It maybe all these elements will add up in a way
Right.
that you couldn't have predicted, or who knows? We may come back to those things and say, actually, we like that element of that.
Hmm.
You know,
What are some of the, so we've taken a lot of steps and missteps, and we've what would you say are some of the milestones that we've accomplished? Well, I mean, I've got two in my mind, but let me throw that question out to you first. What would be some of the bigger, the notable steps that we've taken?
okay, well, I think we've covered quite a few already, and David alluded to
Sure.
one earlier on. A stepping stone that a major step that David was talking about earlier was when, and we'll just call him Matt. We won't call him anything else because he's keeping himself in the background for the moment. We'll just call him Matt. When Matt came on
That's
board,
his
through
identity must be protected.
oh gosh,
that's the one I had in mind. That's one of the two I had in mind as well.
well,
Yes. Go ahead.
Matt got on board because of David's persistence. I mean, I have to say, I did say to David at one point, David, why is this guy? I mean, you keep talking about it. It's like I said to David, and he went, "Oh, you're right. I'll go and try again," and he did. And
I knew that if I just pestered him, sort of on the hour, every hour, for a couple of days, he would have walked away. So
but
I did do a
what he
very
did,
slow burn.
he initially it was a slow burn, but you gave
Sounds
him
like the courtship of my wife, but anyway, I digress. Go ahead. Yeah.
you didn't give him the audiobook. What you gave him were the actual raw files that you'd recorded. So one per chapter, and you gave him all of those files, and we didn't know if he'd listen to it or not. But within 2 weeks,
True, I'd forgotten that bit.
yeah, within 2 weeks of you giving him those raw files, he phoned you up and he said, "Chapter 72 is effed up.
Yes.
Get me chapter 72 immediately."
And we had evidence.
So,
He is listening.
by that point, he was addicted, which is what we wanted.
Yeah, I need to know what happened.
Yeah, so that was great. And he came on board, and he's been involved in some massive stuff in the right areas in terms of the industry, and has really, it's a change of gear. We've gone up a gear in terms of how we're producing, exactly what we produce, the treatment, and how we're producing it. And we've now finished the textual content of the treatment, and we're within a few days of finishing the graphical content of that. We've gone through two drafts so far. We'll get the final draft back next week, and then we are ready to go out to the industry and say, this is what we've got. You agree, David? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The other, so Matt joining was, to me, also a significant stepping stone. The other for me was when I finally read the episodal treatment, the 20 or 21 episodes. Yeah. Right. And so that to me also was like, oh, okay. I can see it now. I can actually see it. So at what point did we realize that? Can you pinpoint a moment when we said, okay, because we toyed around with it, but then there was almost like a deciding moment where we said, this is a TV series. This is a movie. Is not going to cut it. This is like I'm not going to name any other TV series that I'm a big fan of, but this is like a.
Go on, just say it, Mark. Just say it.
It's coming. It's coming. He'll get there.
Yeah, don't hold back.
But this is definitely.
Is it one set quite near to where you are?
Well, I do. Already it's Shogun.
There we go.
But I can see it like that now. Is this historical drama?
Louise, you owe me £5.
You got your bingo card, Ian.
I'm sure Sia, when she listens, she's going to take a drink. Like I was going to take a drink every time he said it, and I can't believe I had to wait this long.
Yeah.
Anyway, at what
Do
point
the
did we?
editing in the afternoon.
Right. At what point did we realize that okay, this it's not a movie; it is a TV series?
That was, we were kind of mulling it over all along. And I'd always, my gut feeling was that it was always going to be a series, because you could make a very long film out of it, but even a 3-hour film would have been, we'd have to have cut a lot of it. So my feeling was there's just so much, and an integral part of the story for me is just how many things TJ in particular, but a lot of the main characters go through. And they come back, they're exhausted, they're mentally done, their nerves are shot. I'm done. No, you're not. Out you go again.
That's the.
And
I'm sorry
I didn't feel that could really be done justice in a film.
Well, that's the thing. I think you alluded to it, that in essence, it's not one story with one arc or whatever. This is 20 stories. This is 20 novels. This is 20 books in one big book. And so, that to me is where I felt like, okay, these are individual stories in their own right. I mean, they're all connected, but yeah, it would be an injustice to try to tell all of those stories in one 2.5 hour movie or whatever.
Yeah. I've also begun to wonder recently whether if we are going to make a series out of it, and that will necessarily be one of the big streamers that takes it on. If we, something you said, Ian, recently about, what was the football, Ted Lasso. Yeah. That the makers of Ted Lasso were actually wanting to expand the material. And if, say, it was 4 episodes, they wanted to turn it into 6, for example. So that got me thinking that actually maybe the length of this thing, it could be a plus for us, because that it basically, bottom line is, it means more advertising revenue. It means more space and time around which to advertise. So if you get bums on seats, if you get eyes on the screen for more, and this is why Hollywood and the movie making business in general has always preferred to make sequels, because you have an established thing, you have an established interest. So people will go and see Transformers 19 because they're familiar with it. So if they're familiar with TJ's War episodes 1 to 8, they're far more likely to tune in for episode 9 than they are for something new, because it's an unknown for them. Right. So actually, it might be to our advantage.
Right. You've already built the base. You've already built the foundational audience that's going to always be there. Plus, you'll get new as you go. You'll get more as you go along.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reference to Ted Lasso has reminded me, Mark, that he often talks about the underrated rom-com You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Well, funnily enough, my favorite film of all time was the one before that, Joe versus the Volcano, which was the first rom-com with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And my children, almost anybody who knows me, will tell you that has been my favorite film since it first came out in 1990, 35 years ago. And I'm not going to explain why, but everyone should go and watch that film, because it's almost like Ted Lasso on acid. It's amazing. And
the other thing that was going to trigger Sia to have a drink was if you mentioned Joe versus the Volcano, because if anybody mentions anything more than me mentioning Shogun, it's you mentioning Joe versus the Volcano.
I just want to make sure you've got that. So anyway,
it's making me wonder what people are waiting for me to say.
Well, yeah, I think we all are. But one of the things about this journey has been that we're not really in control. There's other things going on. And Louise, my dear, gorgeous wife, organized for us to go out to Santorini, which is one big volcano in the middle of the Mediterranean. It's a very top rim of the volcano. And so we went out there in October, went down a very lonely path to just above the waterline and looked out across the caldera. Enormous. I mean, it's about 15 miles across and 70 or is it kilometers, 15 kilometers across and 20 kilometers end to end. Massive thing. So never been in a volcano before in my life, as far as I'm aware. And here I am, almost at the water's edge, looking across the caldera with Louise, who's my Meg Ryan. And this chap walks up behind us. There's nobody else in sight anywhere. He walks up behind us and he said, "Would you like me to take a picture?" I said, "Oh, that'd be great." Give him the phone. There we are in front of the caldera. He takes a photograph and he says, "So are you on holiday?" I said, "Yes, we are." We had a chat. Turns out to be a director of a major television channel in America. I mean, if I wrote that as what if I wrote a story about how we're making this into a TV series and I put that in, people would not believe it. You can't.
Did you ask him? Did you ask him yet if he had $50 million he'd like to invest in a project?
I'm not going to name him, but we're in good contact, and
Okay.
he knows all about the story. He's read the book now, and he likes the book.
Seed
and
investor.
so
Well,
it's just one of these things.
well,
Go on.
let's jump off that, or let's use that as a jumping point, is what I meant to say. We've spoken with directors and industry professionals. What have been some of the key insights from those conversations all along over the last year, whether it was Sammy, whether it's the individual you're referring to, whether it was Earl Bridges, who I secured for the podcast, my PBS contact that I,
Never again will I suggest otherwise, Mark. I can only apologize.
what have been some of the
Who came up with
key?
him, Ian? Who came up with him?
I thought it was Sia.
I get no credit
Probably.
around, I swear.
Probably, yeah.
What have been some of the key insights from those conversations?
What is it Matt says, Ian? He quotes Saul, somebody or other, a huge movie maker in the US, saying, "There is no one way." That, you say, "This is the gospel, this is absolutely how it must be done." Someone else will come along and do it, rip it up and do it another way.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
if we start with Janice, the message I took away from Janice was we were asking Janice, how do we get this? How do we hand this across to a company that are going to make this into a film? That because it was early on. That's what we're asking Janice. And Janice turned around to us and just went, almost like, "WTF? You guys are the producers. You're going to make the film." And I thought,
You're doing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a massive one for me because I think I was getting sucked down the path of we're going to hand this across at some point to somebody who's going to take it away and make it. And Janice was going, no. You're the producers. You're making the film. And I think that was a massive thing from Janice.
Mm.
Sammy, I mean, when you go through Sammy's stories, I mean, he's just a bundle of energy. And he's acting, he's producing, he's writing. Almost every day he's probably thinking about this would make a good film, and he's trying to do this, that next thing. He never stops. And relentless.
Yeah, his passion was something that spoke to me.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges we faced? What challenges do we still face? I mean, well, besides $200 million.
Mm.
The biggest one for me is we live in a very fast world. And getting people who live in a fast world to take the time to understand the story is hard.
That is a challenge.
Mm.
And if you turn around and you say, well, TJ's War, it's like this and like that. It's a mixture of 12 O'Clock High and War and Peace with Gone with the Wind. Actually, that's not bad. But if you say that to people, they've got something in their heads. You say, okay, well, I understand it now. And off they go. And they don't understand it. You know, it's much bigger than that as a story. I mean, the whole point of it is to try and get people to stop killing each other. It's an attempt at world peace. It's to say, look, I was talking with my father-in-law 2 days ago, and I said to him, when I was in the RAF, if somebody was coming up with me with a gun and I had to choose between me or them, it would be them. I'd kill them. And if it was between me, if it was between a member of my one of my close friends or a member of my family and them, it would be them. And that's still true. I can kill people, but I'm not going to kill somebody because somebody over there has told me to.
Right.
You know,
But
it's like, well,
I think that happens to most of us, Ian, when we start getting gray hairs on our chin. My point is, like, there's a reason why soldiers are 18 years old, because they think they're going to live forever. They're totally willing to. They really don't bat an eye about, oh, I'm gonna drop this bomb over here and I might kill 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever. It doesn't really, the reality of that, I don't think, sets in when you're 18, 19, 20, 21. But when you pass 40, then you're like, what am I doing? You're worthless as a soldier. I digress. We're getting away from the topic.
No, but I almost take on board your point. I think it's not quite true, because that eventually didn't happen with me. I mean, even at 18 and 19 and 20 years old, as TJ proves, you have got a brain in your head and you can use it. But there's an indoctrination. There's this, let's get people in uniform and treat them all the same. And they've got to act the same. And if they don't act the same, then we take them out and we shoot them so that the others get the idea. So there has to be another way. I mean, this whole idea of being able to order people to go off and either kill these people over there or die, it's crazy. It's just madness. Right. And that's a large part of the story of TJ's War, is trying to get that message across. Just get people to ask the question. Even teenagers ask the question, why would you want to do this?
Yeah, I think young people are asking that question more these days than they used to. So with the time we have remaining, let's now look ahead to year 2 here. What are the biggest goals we have for this year of the project?
To engage a production company. And there may even be 2 stages to that. We may be looking at initial production to help us develop the script, initial funding, raising of initial funding, the legalities of it, etc., to get it into a formulated, this is how it genuinely might happen, and we have these names involved now to start to bring it all together, to then pitch to the actual people who might make it. There might be some blurring of those lines, but this is entirely new territory for us, me included. So, but that is what this year holds. It's going to be meetings and lots of no's, probably. Hopefully with enough yeses to keep going. I mean, we will keep going, obviously. That's a given. But how circuitous a route it will be is another thing. I mean, also this year will be the start of it, because traditionally these things take years and years, and you think you've got some funding. Oh no, they pull it, and you hear all sorts of stories about things really going through the long growth on the side of the fairway.
I have noticed, though, by the way, and I wish I had examples on the ready here, but I have been noticing that several movies that have come out of novels in the last few years, it's been a quicker path than I said. Like
Yeah.
I said, I don't have examples on the ready. I didn't expect it to broach the subject, but I've been noticing, and it's not like where it takes 10 years or 15 years to make, or a script sits in Scorsese's desk for 20 years before he makes the movie. That has happened, but it seems to be moving a little quicker
With any
these
luck.
days.
Yeah.
I think what
Hopefully.
we've done in the last year is turned a dream into something that's got a very high possibility of happening. We've basically created the lighthouse, and we've shined up the glass, and now we're getting the ship to make the move from one end of the ocean to the other. So
what kind of team do we build? I mean, we have our core team, and like David said, even we hit walls or we get no's, we're still moving forward. We're still going to keep moving forward, and but what? And I'm not saying we're just going to keep expanding our team, but what's next in terms of people we include? Writers, producers, directors. I mean, you talked about approaching a production company, but what are we looking at next in terms of an individual that might be a part of what we're trying to do?
Actors.
Actors.
Yeah.
yeah,
Starting to
I
get some
think
names interested.
Actors, the right script writer or the right director, any one of those
Yep.
coming
Yeah.
along now and showing major interest would make a massive difference.
Yeah.
I think the script writer, once the script writers produced a script, will be, I don't know how long this journey is, but I think we'll be more than halfway at that point. It's highly likely that the scriptwriter will come along once we've got at least the next round of funding in place, and not before then.
The thing with it is the Live Aid syndrome that we're in at the moment, where Bob Geldof calls, I forget the exact names involved, but it's something like this, that Bob Geldof, trying to get this whole thing together, calls Sting and says, can you do this? And Sting said, well, who else is doing it? Who else is involved? And Bob Geldof says, Bono, Phil Collins. Sting said, all right, yeah, I'm in. So Bob Geldof quickly puts down the phone, rings up Bono.
Phil Collins. Yeah. Right.
And says, we've got this thing. Who else is involved? Oh, well, Sting's just said yes. All right, I'm in. So I think any director that or actor or whoever, actors are probably the easiest to get involved because they would be interested in doing something like this. But they'll say, well, what money have you got? What stage are you at? Who's written the script, etc., etc. So we've got a bit of a chicken and egg, but we'll just keep blasting away, and it's possible that some of the people that we get involved at this point get us to the next level, and then those people might drop away. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm thinking it's going to be stepping stones, rather than thinking now we're assembling the final crowd.
Yeah. It's definitely not an exact science.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, it is an art. I have two more questions before we wrap this up. One, what is your dream outcome for this project? This is two questions, but this is one question. What's your dream outcome for this project? What does success look like for TJ's War as a TV series? And then, so let's answer that, and then I've got a final question.
It being on the screen.
That's it? I don't want to. I want more. Maybe I'm greedy. I want
I,
it to be a big deal.
I, I want it to make an impact. I want it to affect humanity, because my degree is computer science with artificial intelligence. I'm about logic, and when I see people killing each other as they are in the Ukraine, in Israel, in Gaza, in where's it? There's a one that's just opened up in Africa, I think. But all of these wars and all of the wars, we've had over 260 wars since the Second World War. Not just battles, not just terrorist wars. And none of it makes any sense at all. We are a grease stain on the third planet from this sun, which is one of 200 billion that go around this galaxy. And this galaxy is one of billions in this universe. What possible difference can it make to go around killing people? It's just barking mad. And so I'd like us to, I'd like TJ's War to make a difference. It might not, but that's what I want.
All right. Well, that's.
Can I amend my entry?
Yeah. Yes. Please do.
I think the quality with which it's made is really important. It wouldn't be enough to just have it made and, all right, we'll do eight episodes and we'll do it for $100,000 and we'll have wobbly sets and plastic planes against a black curtain. It won't make an impact. It has to be good.
Yeah.
To underpin the seriousness of the message that Iain has just outlined. So
right.
The quality with which it's done is really vital. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I want it to look, I want it to be good. I want the content to be, obviously we want all these things. I want the script to be solid. I want the acting to be good. I want it to look good on the screen. The way I talk about that other show, I want people to talk about this one. Like I want people to say like, oh, I want to make a show that looks like TJ's War. The cinematography, the acting, all of it,
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So here's our last question. If you could go back to the beginning of this and give yourself one piece of advice before starting this journey, what would it be?
This is going to be podcast gold here while Iain and I sit and ponder that one.
I'm happy. I wouldn't change a damn thing, Mark.
No,
that's a damn fine answer.
No, I feel I've already learned quite a lot. I feel blessed to be involved.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, let's end it on that one, fellas. You can't end it better than that.
Yeah.
Riding off into the sunset. Good. Yeah, that's all, folks. All right.
Yeah. See you next time.
To find out more about the book, visit tjswar.com. And to buy it, click on the Amazon link below. So follow us, join us as we create TJ's War, the $50 million TV series.